I always gotta wait until that very last little slide comes out.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's how you know it's over. How are you today?
A little hectic. I didn't even get to go to the gym today. I had to get my tire after the stream. I had to get my tires rotated, and that's always an hour and a half fucking venture.
Mm-hmm.
Visit my uncle who came into town.
All right.
And then came back. It's not really babysitting because the kid's asleep,
Mm-hmm.
but I kind of volunteered to do it so Joe and Sarah could have a date night. And then I had people texting me just now saying, "Hey, come to Tipsy Goat. It's so and so's first night." And I'm like, "Motherfuck!" So,
So then I guess you haven't watched Mortal Kombat yet.
I'm gonna get to that. So yeah, depending on what time Joe and Sarah get back, I may go out. Yeah. So I texted Andrew.
Okay.
Sorry, weapon. And I told him, I'm like, all right, I have not seen Mortal Kombat 21, but I have seen clips that are already on YouTube. And I'm ready to shit all over it. My worry was with the CGI thing was Goro.
It actually wasn't bad.
I hated it.
Oh, I mean it's better than Jim Henson running it.
I'd rather have Jim Henson run it.
No, honestly, it wasn't horrible.
I preferred in space. But I mean that I would say that like when you get to the CGI portion of it, and I'm not done with the CGI either, because someone else I'm gonna bring up. But when it comes to CGI, it's like I kind of want to say the Hulk from Endgame, Professor Hulk, probably one of the best looking CGIs. I mean, the Hulk in general throughout the MCU is probably one of the best looking CGIs for something that supernatural.
All right.
So that's kind of a hard thing to achieve, especially with a character like Goro.
Mark also saw it. He liked it. I saw it. I enjoyed it.
Oh, he told me earlier. He's like, this is kind of bad. He said it was kind of like hokey.
So, I mean, I enjoyed it, but then again, if you compare that movie to any of the other video game fighting movies that have come out over the past 20 years, it is probably the best one because that bar is not set very high. When you have Street Fighter and Annihilation, like...
Okay. You cannot wait. Oh, Chick with the Knife did not see it. This podcast is going to be about mostly giving Weapon the lashings. I'm going to try and steer away from MK as possible, but I know like the first 20 minutes is going to be about it. So, spoiler alert.
I don't even know if Missa will end up watching it or not.
Okay.
So, but before we get into that, so I had to work last night.
Oh, shit.
I had to be at work at 11 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
I got home at like 9:30 or 10 o'clock this morning.
Mm-hmm.
And then I watched it just to make sure that I would have it done by 4 o'clock. So instead of sleeping, I watched the Mortal Kombat movie thinking that Darren was going to watch it and meet up with me at 4 o'clock to either... I mean, there's no either. It's just he was going to shit on it. He could have been the best movie of 2021, and he was going to shit on it.
And then I texted you saying, hey, can't do it at 4.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so if I look tired, it's because I am. And I've got to be back at work tomorrow morning also.
Well, that's why it's potentially a short and sweet stream. Plus, if I hear a baby crying, which I doubt I will, Like less than 10% chance I will, because the kid's a fucking great sleeper.
Um,
But in the event I hear something, then I have to bolt.
yeah, that's one. So what was that name that you sent me in the text earlier?
Let me see. Oh, Jorah.
I had.
That's the celebrity name of Joe and Sarah.
Oh, okay. I'm like, yeah, I'm
But
like, who?
I would, if you had normal energy, I'm sure you would have understood that.
No, you woke me up with that text.
Oh, sorry.
It's fine. But yeah, I was trying to read that through like
Go ahead.
half awake eyes, and I'm just like, I don't know what this isn't even an actual name. This is just letters. I'm pretty sure he meant to type Joe something. Did he really butcher the name Joseph this badly? But
No. So Weapon may join us in the Discord, so I can give him his proper lashing.
you know what? I am going to sit here and defend Weapon because without any knowledge of it, it was. I mean, again, the bar is so incredibly low for this genre of movies that it is one of, if not the best done for this genre of movies.
All right.
Name a better. You haven't even seen it yet, but name a good fighting movie that was based on a video game. Name
No,
one.
I'm not. So if you were to kind of categorize or rack and stack like the fighting game movies, fuck, hang on.
Well, it is a video game movie, like first and foremost. And I mean, even video game movies are normally just trash.
Yes. Okay. So if you were to rack and stack just video game movies, not knowing anything of the Mortal Kombat lore or Mortal Kombat story, yes, hands down, this film would probably be head and shoulders above all of them. All right. It was very well done. The outfits, again, not knowing anything about the lore, outfits look great. Story was there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. It is a sci-fi film. So when you enter the sci-fi realm, all bets are off. You know, there's very unearthly things that are going to happen.
No, Alex,
So,
Primal Rage does not need a movie.
no.
Actually, I'm sorry, they just came out with it. It's called Godzilla vs. King Kong.
Yeah, pretty much. So, however, when you do interject what it is you do know, or when you start reading up on the Mortal Kombat lore, this movie kind of ruins it for a number of things. I'm going to start in the very beginning of it. First off, let's go with the aesthetics. The scenery looked great. I will give it that. Shang Tsung, I was neither here nor there on.
I kept comparing him to the original Shang Tsung.
Kerry Tagwa, yeah.
But he wasn't bad. Although
exactly.
I will say the acting for him was horrible. But then again, his voice lines in the game, to put those into a movie,
it's kind of like saying the only good thing that came out of the portrayal of Shang Tsung was the Easter egg callbacks to the game.
Here's the thing. All right, how much of it do you want me to tell you? Because I've seen it and you haven't, so I can give you.
I know he says your soul is mine.
Yes,
I know he drops that line.
Yes. Okay, so I'm just going to throw this out there right now for anyone that hasn't seen it. Spoiler alerts across the board. But the spoilers are going to be as far as you want them to be.
I don't care because I'm probably not going to watch it.
You should, but
no.
So
I already know what happens.
So first off, it's not even the tournament.
I know.
So I liked that portion of it, that it was not the tournament, that it was them trying to cheat their way into an early victory.
Okay.
So
Well, okay, so the here's where I can kind of appreciate what they did with it. The movie is kind of a prequel to the first tournament, and in the for basically 10 tournaments, if you challenge another realm, you
mhm.
have to win 10 straight victories in Mortal Kombat. Outworld was successful in doing that with Edenia, which is where Katana's from. Khan takes Katana as his own. Now he's trying to invade Earthrealm. Well, he has to win another 10 victories. Well, this is the 10th tournament. Each time, Shao Kahn's sorcerer, Shang Tsung, deliberately tries to unbalance the tournament into Outworld's favor. And in the original lore, he does this a number of ways. However, though they completely butchered that in this film. So one of the ways it's done is, and this is where I'm gonna kind of introduce everything. I'll come back to the aesthetics later.
Mhm.
Bi-Han Sub-Zero is never on the side of Outworld. He is never. He is kind of sort of on Shang Tsung's side. It's weird. What happened was the Lin Kuei wanted to assassinate Shang Tsung and take all his shit. They wanted to rob and kill him, pillage him.
Okay.
All right. In order to do that, they wanted to gain his favor. So Shang Tsung negotiated a deal with the Lin Kuei. Hey, give me your best to fight on the side of Outworld, and I'll get quid pro quo. And I'll give you all this shit. Lin Kuei is like, well, we want your shit anyway, so let's side with the devil. And they sent in Bi-Han.
So it's funny because he was on the side. Actually, him and Scorpion both were on the side of Outworld in the original film.
Well, so this is where the original film was more accurate. What ended up happening was Quan Chi wanted both the souls of Hanzo Hasashi and Bi-Han. In order for that to happen, with the help of Shang Tsung. How this came about was there was an amulet that Quan Chi needs, and he sends in both of them, rival gangs, to go after this. As much of an asshole as he is, as corrupted as he is, would kill Hanzo Hasashi. He would be successful at that. He does so Quan Chi can take Hanzo's soul and corrupt him into Scorpion. To further enrage him, Shang Tsung posed as Bi-Han to slaughter Hanzo's family and lead the Lin Kuei into basically exterminating Hanzo's clan.
So
that further enrages Scorpion.
Was it Shang Tsung or was it? Oh, there was another dude. So there's actually I watched another Mortal Kombat movie today, and it was
the something of Scorpion.
Scorpion's Revenge.
Scorpion's Revenge.
Yep. Yes, and yeah, it actually did. It said most of what you just said. So
yeah.
Okay, so I have a question.
Well, let me finish that because we're coming up to Mortal Kombat 1. Scorpion's now fucking furious. All right. And he brokers a deal with Shang Tsung saying, hey, you fight on the side with Outworld, and I'll make sure you get your vengeance with Sub-Zero at MK1. Okay, cool. Square deal. Now he has the Spectre of Scorpion and fucking Sub-Zero Bi-Han fighting on the side of Outworld in exchange for Scorpion getting revenge on Sub-Zero. In the original story, Liu Kang wins the tournament, and as the island crumbles, Scorpion gets his revenge and is successful in killing Bi-Han. Bi-Han, his soul, then gets taken by Quan Chi into the Netherrealm to become Noob Saibot.
All right.
So now Quan Chi is successful in manipulating both of them.
All right. So at what point in the video? Actually, I just want to know, in what year did Sub-Zero actually get the name Bi-Han? Because
Bi-Han is his birth name.
That's cool. Mm-hmm. But in the first Mortal Kombat, there was no Bi-Han. It was Sub-Zero.
Okay.
So at what point, and I just want to know if this entire storyline had already been created when the first Mortal Kombat movie came out, or did all of this backstory and everything come to fruition after the first movie, and we're shitting on something that was created in a time when the story didn't even exist?
So what happened was when the first Mortal Kombat game came out, the creators basically didn't want to throw too much out there. They just gave each character their own backstory, something minimal. And as the games became more and more successful, they added on and on from there. You drag weapon in. All right. As the games became increasingly popular, they added more to the story. So as it goes between Bi-Han and Sub-Zero, likewise with Kuai Liang and Sub-Zero, the Lin Kuei and the Shirai Ryu both kind of refrain from revealing actual names to the general populace, or basically any outsider other than their own clan. So since Bi-Han and Kuai Liang were both cryomancers, they gave Bi-Han the codename Sub-Zero and Kuai Liang the codename Tundra. Kuai Liang is Sub-Zero's younger brother.
What Mortal Kombat was it that Sub-Zero was you played as the quote unmasked Sub-Zero or younger Sub-Zero?
That'd be Mortal Kombat 3. So in MK1, Scorpion is successful in killing Bi-Han. Quan Chi takes soul, he becomes Noob Saibot. In Mortal Kombat 2, Scorpion is then once again summoned by Shao Kahn to fight on the side of Outworld. And he discovers that Sub-Zero mysteriously is alive. He's like, well, that can't fucking be because I killed him. Mm-hmm. So Scorpion goes to investigate it, and he shows... all right, hang on. So Scorpion's like, what the fuck? I killed Sub-Zero. What the hell? Mm-hmm. And so he goes to investigate it, and this new Sub-Zero is fighting someone, but he shows mercy. And mercy and compassion was a trait Bi-Han never had. So Scorpion then realized, oh, this is the younger brother of Sub-Zero using his same name. What the fuck? And once Scorpion kind of understands what's going on, in atonement for killing Bi-Han, mm-hmm. his older brother, he vows to forever protect Kuai Liang and switches to the side of Earth.
Is it just Sub-Zero and Sub-Zero?
Technically, it's Sub-Zero and Tundra, but when the original Sub-Zero died, to maintain the illusion with the Lin Kuei, Tundra decided to be like, all right, I'm going to honor my brother's name and call myself Sub-Zero.
All right. No, I'm just trying to figure out if how much it is legitimate actually shitting on the original movie or not, as far as not sticking with storyline.
So with the original movie, there's only one line that alludes to that. And it's in the boat scene where Sonya, Johnny Cage, and Liu Kang are coming down and they meet Shang Tsung. Mm-hmm. Scorpion and Sub-Zero enter. Shang Tsung then drops the line, the deadliest of enemies, but slaves under my power. That's what that means. These two are meant to kill each other. Mm-hmm. But I am so powerful and manipulative that they're pawns in my hand.
Yes.
So that line is dead on point with the original story.
All right.
As far as the new film is concerned, I love the fact that they introduced all that in the very beginning. The biggest problem I have with it is, and as far as that whole scene is concerned, yes, you can retcon that with the sequel, having Shang Tsung showing Shang Tsung morph into Bi-Han killing his family. You can retcon that. That's fine. Mm-hmm. The problem I have with that scene is it takes place in the 15th century, which is wrong. There is no character in the Mortal Kombat realm, maybe other than Shang Tsung, Raiden, and Fujin, and Shinnok, maybe Quan Chi, that are none of them are immortal. They're all normal fucking humans and beings and have an age just like everything else. Now, if you're talking other worlds like Outworld, Netherrealm, blah, 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 the age span is quite drastic. So like Katana's like 1,500 years old or something like that.
Well, I mean, that's what she says in the first movie.
And that's actually the case. In the original game, it is stated as so that she's that old.
Are you looking for sponsorship? Trying to get sponsorships?
I'm having a Coke and a smile.
So, if you're talking different realms, yes, the age gap is quite different between one or the other. But when it comes to Earthrealm based warriors, none of them are immortal. None of them are ageless. So that's the problem I had with this film, is it does not take place in the 15th century. Hanzo Wasashi's murder and his clan's extinction takes place in present day.
So even in the other
Wait, what? No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
Dude, I watched it. He died in like the 15th century.
Again, in the new movie, Mortal Kombat 21, the slaughtering of the Shirai Ryu, Hanzo Wasashi, and his family takes place in the 15th century, but in the original story, it takes place in present day.
Oh, I got him swapped. I thought you were saying that you had a problem with it taking place in modern.
No.
And that it's supposed to take place then. Correct. I missed it.
Other way.
So
I do love how they looked. I do love the fire garden where the Shirai Ryu was. I loved all the aesthetics and how natural they kept it. The fighting scene between Bi-Han and Hanzo was fantastic. Give it props for that.
That's actually one of the ones I had an issue with.
I actually didn't think any of the fight choreography was all that great.
I think that was maybe the Scorpion versus Sub-Zero at the end was kind of good.
I thought at the minimum that would be dynamite, right? And I was like, eh.
The thing is, so the one thing I did not care for was exactly what I kind of thought they were going to do, and that was fitting in, like, tying up all loose ends in the last 20 minutes.
Yep.
And I mean, and the thing is you can't blame them because they do that with a bunch of movies. And
it's what happens when you cram too much into 2 hours.
10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag.
Pretty much.
And that was the thing that I was talking about, where it's like a storyline like Mortal Kombat and how vast it is, you are best to compartmentalize it.
Technically, they did.
For 2 hours? Sure.
Technically, I mean, really, that entire thing was nothing more than the revenge story of...
It all circulated around Hanzo Wasashi and Cole Young. And
who the fuck is Cole Young, by the way?
So I'm going to shit on that right now.
I didn't care for that angle either.
So when it came to
arbitrary.
When it came to the Shirai Ryu being exterminated to include Hanzo Wasashi and his family at the helm of Shang Tsung posing as Bi-Han, there were no fucking survivors. All right? And Hanzo only ever had one child. He did not have two. So he had no descendants. He had nothing.
Are you okay down there, Weapon?
Yeah. I'm moving my camera around, and I just thought it was funny to go Anyway, sorry, being a nuisance.
Hanzo had no descendants, had nothing, and did not give a fuck about Cole Young. He had no. I'm sorry, but in terms of the original storyline, he has no place in this film. I thought originally,
is Cole Young even a fucking character?
Nope.
That's what I thought. I'm like, who is this Yahoo? Who cares?
Yeah. And
my whole argument about how you don't make an X-Men movie without Wolverine goes out the window when you make a fucking Mortal Kombat movie and the star of the movie isn't even a Mortal Kombat character.
Correct.
Why are you doing this?
I mean, okay, so they did do one. They did something that I have liked in a lot of other movies, and that is that they did take it a completely different direction. They did not actually stick to any of the scripting or anything like that. And the first movie that did that I really liked was actually Resident Evil. They took it in that universe with the characters and what's going on and whatever it is, but they have their own storyline. Like, they've created their own thing altogether. And what it does is then you're no longer... It's not like you've read the book and now you're watching it. You're just
That's
watching...
True. It's more easily for people to accept them on their own merits if they're
because
almost
it's
uncomparable.
Because it basically is, you have the video game and its story, and then you have the movies and their story.
So the closest thing Hanzo Wasashi ever had to a child, on the alternate timeline, probably around 30 years later, one of the characters, Kenshi, has a child, and Scorpion, long story short, winds up getting his soul back, and he reforms the Shirai Ryu. Kenshi's son, I think it is Takehita Takahashi, sends him to the tutelage of Hanzo Wasashi, who's now human again, but Hanzo still retains Scorpion's abilities. He's like a hybrid. Takahata is the closest thing Hanzo ever has to a kid. He otherwise has no other fucking ties. And that's where I do not give a shit about Cole Young. What I originally thought they were going to do with Cole Young is use him as a member of the audience to understand what the hell the story of Mortal Kombat and all these people and how everything gets brought about. And to an extent, they do that.
When I was watching previews, I thought it was an Asian Johnny Cage.
A lot of people suspected him to be Johnny Cage. And then they find out that he's this fucking Cole Young guy, and that's when people started throwing the questions and the rumors. And then when he threw up the golden like tape on his hands, that's when people were clued in. Oh, this must be something relevant to Hanzo Hasashi. That's it. Immediately when I hit like, if I hadn't already dropped the fucking handle on it, that's when I did it, because Hanzo Hasashi has no lineage. So, what else?
Here's my problem with that. It's not that they're giving lineage to a guy who has no lineage. It's that it feels so unnecessary and ill-conceived.
It is.
Like, when I say you don't make an X-Men movie without Wolverine, I'm not saying you can never make an X-Men movie without Wolverine. They clearly did it. Once they sort of planted the X-Men into the zeitgeist and people generally knew what the X-Men were, and there was room for other characters to be explored. But fucking movie people don't know what Mortal Kombat is. Not really, if they don't play video games.
Even the people that play video games.
They saw one movie in the 90s, and that's, it was ill-conceived too.
And with the bar, and kind of like what Doc was saying, with the way the bar's been raised for supernatural movies, which I give that credit to the MCU, why couldn't you just take your time in telling these stories that are so rich in detail?
They didn't even have a tournament. They just had characters in the world, which if you weren't even going to have a tournament, why not just do what you said?
So we
just follow around one character and explore Scorpion's story. It's so rich and just it's replete with tragedy.
So we kicked off the stream. We kicked off this stream talking a little bit about that. So when it came to the MK21 story, I appreciate the purpose of it as it being a prequel to the actual Mortal Kombat tournament. Shang Tsung is notorious for unbalancing each side, so that way everything is always in Outworld's favor. And in the original story, along with Quan Chi, they are successful in manipulating Hanzo Hasashi and Bi-Han to Bi-Han killing Hanzo, and Hanzo becomes Scorpion. The Shirai Ryu is eliminated, with Shang Tsung impersonating Bi-Han, killing his wife and child, not children, and which further enrages Scorpion. And then they broker a deal with Scorpion saying, we will allow you to get vengeance if you fight on the side of Outworld. Meanwhile, Sub-Zero and the Lin Kuei says, hey, want to fight on the side of Outworld, quid pro quo, and we'll give you shit. Lin Kuei's like, well, we'd rather kill you and take your shit, but better the devil you know. So sure. And that's how that comes about in MK1. Scorpion is then successful in killing Bi-Han. Bi-Han then becomes Noob Saibot. Quan Chi is successful in manipulating both of them.
So apparently it was not, it was Quan Chi that killed this family. It was not...
Shang Tsung.
Yes.
Yeah.
You should okay. If you're not going to watch MK21, then at least watch Scorpion's Revenge.
I will watch that.
So, and I think it's going to be a series of things, because it's actually called Mortal Kombat Legends Scorpion's Revenge.
You haven't watched it, Darren?
No,
he's shitting on stuff that he hasn't seen.
After Annihilation and Conquest, I kind of gave up on Mortal Kombat ever having a decent fucking theatrical television run.
Well, Annihilation was just trash on all levels.
I'm going to go back to what I said before, man. If I gave up on Marvel movies after, I don't know, fucking Punisher, the first movie, or even the second movie.
Oh, I mean, I would have gone farther back than that and said MCU. Fucking Edward Norton in the Hulk.
Runway so these things can improve, but I'm not going to go down that road again.
Yeah.
But I would watch it if you have access to a HBO. I mean, it's no skin off your back. Just explore the ideas and see.
It's 2 hours he feels he'll never get back.
I cherish the stories that I kind of already know.
It's not like
more
those
so.
things evaporate, man. It's like once
I
you,
know.
it doesn't, you're not a fucking hard drive. It's not gonna get overwritten.
He's
Like,
gone.
we
Um,
lost him.
he's it's always funny whenever he disappears.
I know. It's always at like the pinnacle of a point too.
Yeah.
I think he does it on purpose. He just sits there with his like
He's like,
finger just.
kill switch.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
But so going back,
I do think
like
there's things in it you will appreciate.
like
That's
here's
what I'm saying.
the only
It's not
reason that
garbage, it just could have been better.
the only reason that I get on you so much about it, Darren, is that you like the MCU, and anyone knows if you were to know the MCU even a fraction of what you know,
It
Mortal
does not follow
Kombat,
the comics,
dude,
like,
you
at
would
all closely.
absolutely shit on it. You would not watch a single thing. And it does not matter what part of the MCU you're in. It does not matter if it's the X-Men. It does not matter. I mean, the whole Phoenix saga in general.
Hold on. You're
isn't-
stepping on your own dick right now. X-Men are not currently MCU. Different thing.
No.
I
Okay. I'm saying MCU as just the Marvel comic universe. Like, it does not matter what part of it you go to, because they're fucking up the story from the comics no matter how you go.
if
By Darren's definition of it, yes, they are fucking up the story.
Which is why Darren,
However,
by
I do not
definition,
believe
should absolutely
anything that
hate
they've done.
the MCU.
But hold on, it supports my statement. If you want to change one little thing to make it relevant, I'm 100% okay with that.
They
They're not
no
changing just one little thing. my
They
friend.
changed everything.
Changed a lot.
Phoenix.
You know,
Okay.
Phoenix is a fucking
what the-
alien.
Hold on.
Okay.
X-Men aside, because they're not MCU. But I got one for you. Do you know that if they did Civil War like they did it in the comics, Captain America would be in a fucking grave? Because he got shot in the chest 8 times by
Yeah.
his blonde girlfriend that was controlled by Scarlet Witch?
Agent 13.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm aware of that story.
So why aren't you shitting on the MCU just as much as you are everything else then?
Because I never grew up with that shit, so I'm not as passionate about it. And 100%, I will own up to the fact of being a hypocrite because of the fact that I did not grow up with comics.
You're just
They're not
biased.
Okay,
And you wear,
bias.
no, and you wear it on your sleeve, and I can appreciate that. At least you're not trying to hide your bias.
No, I'm not trying to hide it at all because I never grew up with the comics of the MCU. I think the only character that I ever cared to follow was Venom, which is why I was pissed about. I liked the Tom Hardy version, but I was pissed at how it was completely irrelevant to Spider-Man.
I think he looked really good. Fun fact about that.
It looked great. The movie was entertaining. The movie was fun. I think it was spot on in terms of character and portrayal. It's just there was no connection to Peter Parker. Peter Parker gets a symbiote first.
Yeah.
Otherwise, Venom has no realistic traits compared to Spider-Man, which he actually does because of the fact that he was with Peter Parker first.
Fun fact,
So-
you know there was a trademark issue, and that's why he couldn't have his insignia on his chest?
Well, that's actually
So dumb.
so one of the
Fuck
things I
you,
was kind of
Tape.
going to allude to is in compared to the MCU versus Mortal Kombat is under its own roof. There are no characters licensed out to other studios. So yes, I did not grow up with the comics. So
That's a fair point. Warner
so-
Brothers owns the people who make the games, or they
Yes.
publish the games
well, no,
for
it-
whatchamacallit.
Warner Brothers owns NetherRealm Studios, and there's a backstory as to how
Oh,
NetherRealm
they're owned
Studios.
by them. Okay, I thought they just
Nether-
did the publishing of it.
No, so I think they do the distribution of it. Midway Games is the one that created Mortal Kombat, and
Way
Midway got sued by the original portrayers of the first 2 Mortal Kombat games. Fun fact, which is why they're not secretable playable characters in a Mortal Kombat trilogy, but some are. Since they got sued and they lost the lawsuit, they just reformed the company, filed bankruptcy, and sold it to Warner Brothers and used that to repackage them as NetherRealm Studios. This was mid 2000s, something like that.
Mm.
And with the first game in that lore being Mortal Kombat 9, which is a reboot of the first 8 games.
Mm.
Literally, the very beginning of that game ends where MK8 ended. Or I'm sorry, begins where MK8 ended and retcons the whole storyline, which is kind of a cool concept.
Okay.
Getting back to the MCU thing, I never grew up with that, so I 100% up to the fact that it's a bias or I'm a hypocrite or whatever. of
No,
not
I don't
being
think you're a hypocrite. I just think you're biased because
okay biased.
because when you were growing up, those stories were very special to you.
Correct.
And I think you're a little close-minded, but that's your prerogative. It's fine.
It's
But
kind of like it's kind of like saying I don't have the appreciation for cars that I do guitars. Why now? A guitar is not going to get me to and from work. It's not going to get me to a date. It's not going to get me to the airport. Blah blah blah.
It could if you're
But
Keith Richards. It gets you all of those
All right.
things.
All right. I don't know if I can argue that. But a vehicle, on the other hand, I couldn't give two shits. I could be a billionaire and I'm still going to drive a Honda Civic or a truck. I couldn't give two shits what I drive. As long as it, one, gets me from A to B,
Yeah.
number two, gets me good gas mileage, and three, looks decent.
Yeah,
I otherwise
it.
don't give a shit.
I get it.
And
But the thing
so-
is I did grow up with Marvel. I did grow up with those things. But
right.
I don't hold it in the palm of my hand like it must be like this. And that's
Okay.
my only thing that I'm trying to impart on you is just a mind works best when it's open, my friend.
And I would
To be
100%.
fair, this movie's not that great and you were kind of right anyway. So.
Well, the lashings haven't come yet.
Because he hasn't seen the movie.
No, I've seen a couple clips and I'm like, all right, I'm already fed up with this. So getting off of the first part of the storyline was Sub-Zero and Scorpion. The aesthetics of them in the beginning looked great. At the end, I'm sorry, Sub-Zero looked great. I wanted to see more cloth on him, kind of like a little bit more homage to like what the Lin Kuei actually looked like. Because I thought the beginning it was pretty spot on. Throw in a little bit of armor and the mask, and you basically nailed it. They didn't do that.
No.
With Scorpion,
But I mean, this day and age, like the character design on that shit. When they make movies now, dude, oh my goodness,
I know they go overboard.
they go ape shit.
All right, so I do
MCU
want to
is
bring
really
up
subdued with that stuff.
I do
which
want
is
to bring
kind
up
of
one other
amazing.
thing that just completely undermines any storyline at all. As soon as they bring it in, all storylines are 100% viable, and you've already brought it up, and that is time travel. Once you bring in time travel, guess what? The story that happened just hasn't been written yet in the game.
Right.
And they
Which
will
is what they
write
did-
it at some
Which
point.
is what they did in MK9.
But I'm saying, like, the story that that I watched earlier today of Mortal Kombat 2021 could actually just be written into the game at this point, purely because it's made them money,
I guarantee we see Corey what's his nuts in the next Mortal
Well,
Kombat.
and
So
all of a
this-
sudden, everything that Darren is hating right now becomes things he can't hate because it is part of the story,
By his
and-
definition, yes.
by his definition.
right. And
So at
this
that
is where
point,
this is where Joe would be a great person to have on right now, because he actually of his it's either 2 or 3 degrees that he has. One of them is astrophysics, and he just he got that degree for kicks while he was in Air War College. This is where he would be kind of in the conversation, because you're starting to deal with multiverse theory, and which is
Shit
actually
breaks my brain, man.
I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not even saying that we're dealing with multiverse theory. We're dealing about the changing of timelines. It doesn't have to
moment you-
necessarily be multiverse.
This
Because
is where me and
But-
Joe have had arguments over this. As
I
far
think
as
what Daring
Avengers-
is getting at, the second you start fucking with timelines, you start creating multiverses.
well, there's the other
At least
one.
that's the idea with like string
Bingo.
theory or some
Well,
shit.
there's the other thing of that it doesn't create an alternate timeline. That timeline just doesn't exist.
Oh, it does,
It does.
but it exists
spreads
on a
apart.
different branch.
Yeah,
And I don't want to get into multiverse theory because
really no
we
one
could do
knows
a
what the
whole-
fuck they're talking about, and
we
we
could
were
do a
just a
whole
bunch
nother
of
But
show.
nerds.
anyway, so if this dude Corey whatever comes out in the next Mortal Kombat, Darren has to eat his
Corey.
words and say he likes the movie because then it would actually fit canon.
Wait, Corey.
Boo.
What the fuck's his name?
The main guy, Corey, what's his name? Whatever the throwaway main guy was in this movie.
Yeah, I
forgot
Cole
his name.
Young.
Cole. Yeah, him.
Cole, yeah. well,
Whatever. He's a really forgettable character.
He is, and
Well,
so
he's the everyman.
so
We're
here-
supposed to insert ourselves into that. It's just
here's the funny part. All right, Midway / NetherRealm Studios is entertainingly notorious for creating characters based off of rumors of things that never existed. And I will give you an example.
Shaggy from Scooby-Doo.
No. All right. Mortal Kombat 1. One of the biggest I'm talking about the game. One of the biggest rumors, if you were to cycle through all the different screens.
You know what? I think we're gonna be
hold on. Seth, thank you so much for the resubscribe for 3 months, my dude. Thank you for coming in and hanging out with us. And he has one thing to say to everyone, and that is pork chop sandwiches.
Pork chop sandwiches? Get the fuck out of here!
All right.
I love that PSA. So if you were to cycle through the arcade version of MK1, all the different screens before you like put in your coin or hit the start button or whatever, one of them would be like I don't know if it's the rankings screen or if it's one of the credits screens, but one of them has what's called Ermacs. Ermacs were
a red Sub-Zero.
No, not yet. Well, you're wrong. You're correct, but not yet.
So you're wrong, just not yet. You're about to be wrong.
No, you're right. Just right now, you're wrong.
So
in Ermac in video game lore was I forget the term for it, but basically it's 2 words put together, short for error macro.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And Ermacs in that cycle of the game were to reveal the number of errors the game has run into. And this was key for maintenance people to come by and make sure that the game was running smoothly. Otherwise, they'd have to return it, recall it, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, people did not know what an error macro was, let alone an Ermac. So everyone thought, oh, this must be some other palette swapped ninja. And I think it was Electronic Gaming Monthly.
Palette swapped ninja. It's a great way of putting it.
They all are.
What they are.
That's all they are.
I mean, that's literally how Darren made his fucking avatars. Is all he did was change their colors.
No. I only changed the colors on the ones that I had to on certain frames. Otherwise, I just downloaded them straight off the internet and then pieced them apart. They're already done.
So you didn't do it unless you had to do it, in which case you did it.
Only one of them I had to do it, and that was Reptile from MK1. Everything else, I basically just take the sprite sheets off the internet, crop out what I need.
So someone else did the palette change for you.
Yeah, it's called Midway.
Someone else did the bucket fill from MS Paint for you.
Yeah, it's called Midway Games.
Although I was in there with you trying to do that at one point.
Yeah, it was in the very beginning, and I was overcomplicating it. I basically just simplified it and realized that the stream avatars actually scales down the frames, so it actually looks pretty good when you just crop it out. Anyway, Electronic Gaming Monthly, someone submitted a basically what ended up being a hoax, but they submitted at the equivalent of at that time a photoshopped image of them discovering Ermac, who happened to be an actual character, and the Ermacs in the game were the number of times you ran into Ermac and had to fight him. Ed Boon and John Tobias came out.
An error thing that you were talking about.
Correct, an error macro. Ed Boon and John Tobias came out and immediately debunked it, and they said, no, that's for error macros for maintenance people. All right, has nothing to do with this character. There's no character called Ermac. Well, fast forward to 1996 with Ultimate MK3, they said, you know what? This is actually a pretty good idea. So let's come up with a red palette swap ninja and call him Ermac. And boom, the character's born.
And Darren's okay with this because it was in a video game. But he's not okay with Cole What's-His-Nuts.
Basically,
I think what he's trying to say is the good people at Midway are basically Jesus, and anything they say, no matter how flawed or hollow it is the gospel.
Sub-Zero can walk on water.
No. If he freezes it, yes.
Fuck, I've walked on water.
What Midway is notorious for doing is taking rumors of things that weren't true, letting people feed off that, and all of a sudden be like, you know what? This actually might be a good idea. Let's
like
make it a real thing. And
So-
they're capitalizing on the
they're-
viral marketing of its day, right?
these are all fan-made characters at the end of the day. And
So
they're
that
creating them
means-
based on that.
That's pretty clever and also
Yes.
really cool.
And it's not, and Ermac is not the only one they've done that with.
So you're saying that there is still a chance that Shaggy from Scooby-Doo will be in Mortal Kombat 12?
No, but there is a small chance. Small. It just depends on whether or not Ed Boon and I think John Tobias is still with NetherRealm. It depends on whether or not the two of them actually like Cole Young as a character enough to give him a backstory, which again I wouldn't be a fan of because Scorpion has no lineage whatsoever. But
Time travel.
They could just make Cole Young a completely new character altogether, having no connection to Hanzo Hasashi whatsoever.
Time travel just goes back and between battles screws his wife one additional time.
Well, yeah, I mean, they've already done time travel 3 fucking times within the MK lore that I'm now sick of it.
As far as I could tell, nothing is out of bounds in that continuity. I played
Like-
the Mortal Kombat 11.
like I
that
said,
shit is
as-
all over the fucking
as
place.
soon as
11
you-
is a little much.
as-
11's a little much.
As soon as you bring in time travel, I lose any respect for what storyline there happens to be,
So-
unless the storyline is
Never think in
specific.
absolutes, my friend. Terminator 2 is an amazing, amazing.
Hold
this
on,
is where
hold on.
this
I was
is-
actually about
this
to.
is where- Go ahead.
Unless the entire story is based around time travel.
I see what you
Okay.
mean. Yeah.
Okay,
So, to
so
support
Back
your
to the
point-
Future, I'm fine with. Terminator 2, I'm fine with. Days of Futures Past, an abomination.
I like that movie. Go
I
fuck
like that
yourself.
movie. Yeah, I like that movie.
It's
The method that they use to time travel is a little thin, though. I will admit, but I like the heart of the movie. I like what it. I like the themes in it.
The movie itself is a decent movie if you take it as a standalone movie. But if you put it into the fact because that movie was about time travel, fine.
Yeah.
But if you take the storyline that is not about time travel and then throw time travel into it, it ruins the rest of that. So if you're doing just the one-off thing, fine, not a problem. You do a single movie time travel, cool. That one movie is good, but I still feel that it ruins a bunch of.
I
other-
understand. I understand
Right.
what you're getting at. Is that the tendency to rely on time travel as a device can be seen as contrived and lazy writing.
Yes,
Okay,
Um,
so
But Endgame,
Darren, go.
well, Endgame touched on a couple things, and Endgame. So, like some of the movies that we know, like Back to the Future or whatever, that deal with time travel specifically. If I move this cup over here, what consequences do I have that weren't there before? That's just
butterfly
very,
effect sort of shit.
That's very linear time travel. All right.
Yeah. Yes.
What Endgame
If
deals
he
with
dumped
is,
his cup right now, that would have been fucking great.
there's nothing in it, smartass.
Is that a Zelda cup?
It is a Zelda cup.
Bum,
Yeah.
bum, ba-da-da-da-da.
What Endgame deals with is the multiverse theory of things. So, and
Yes.
if you recall the conversation between Ancient One and the
Yes.
Hulk,
Totally.
that's
The
where everything
Split
kinda
lines and blah blah blah. And you got to put the stones back where you got them.
correct. But Loki winds up at the Tesseract at
So
some
shit
point.
be fucked.
Correct. Shit be fucked. That deals with the multiverse theory of things. So, in another universe, the original timeline of all the Avengers staying snapped it still exists. Blah blah blah. In Days of Future Past, Bolivar Trask is still successful in creating the Sentinel program. So that's multiverse theory. When it comes to Mortal Kombat, yes, MK11 goes off the fucking rails with time travel, but the one game that did it well was MK9. And I believe they call that MK 2010. I don't remember what they call it, but it's basically MK9.
Things that Google can
And-
answer.
With that game, it is very linear time travel. So Raiden at the end of Armageddon, MK8, which was the last game under Midway.
By the way, it
every-
was MK 2011. By the way,
2011. My bad.
God, it was that long ago? Fuck, I'm old.
The first 8 games, all characters are resurrected to fight Blaze, and whoever wins Blaze, it's like hitting the Triforce or getting all 6 Infinity Stones. Your wish is granted.
Uh-huh.
All right.
so Dragon Ball Z ripoff.
Sure, I don't know anything about Dragon Ball Z, but
Oh, you should watch the movie. It's great.
I never cared for Dragon Ball Z.
I'm
but
kidding.
Anyway.
Don't watch the movie.
Anyway, every character has their own ending, but the canonical ending, I believe, is. Am I saying it right? Canonical.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Is Raiden and
Say it
Shao
10
Kahn.
times fast.
Whatever. Is Raiden and Shao Kahn. And Shao Kahn ends up being successful. But before he's successful, Raiden sends himself a message to the past. This is the beginning of MK9 or MK 2011, where all the way to the very first Mortal Kombat, Raiden receives the message and Raiden's trying to decode it. And so he changes some events very slightly, but they do a great job of telling the story of the first 3 Mortal Kombat games. A fantastic job as far as I'm concerned, albeit a few minor changes. Kung Lao is not in the first tournament. He doesn't show up until the second. Jax is also not in the first tournament. He's actually, he receives a distress call from Sonya, which is why he ventures into Outworld. And then there is where he loses his arms. So, and he doesn't lose them to Sub-Zero. So going back to the movie, that's one of the other issues I have. Sub-Zero is not responsible for Jax's arms.
But that was a pretty cool scene, wasn't it?
It was a great scene. It had, again, he does not lose him in the first. He does not lose him in the prequel. He doesn't lose him in the first tournament. He doesn't lose him in the second tournament.
Yeah, I remember. He didn't always have metal arms.
Yeah. So that's the other issue I had with Jax. Otherwise, he looked great. One of the things I was also going to shit on in terms of CGI, and this is where you might come into Weapon. First off, before you got in here, I thought Goro looked like shit. Looked like garbage.
I thought he looked better than that original.
See?
But
I prefer the original.
He just likes Muppets.
have you seen it lately? It's a little rough.
He would rather Kermit the Frog be up there in fucking Mortal Kombat than the current CGI.
That's like saying the Megan Fox Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were much better Ninja Turtles than the 1991.
Well, Megan Fox is a lot hotter than the old April O'Neil.
First of all, I would disagree with that because those original Turtles looked really good. They were also guys in suits.
Yeah,
Goro was a poorly built animatronic. When you were seeing like the full view of him,
they did have a lot. I think
you remember him looking better than he actually does.
They did have a lot of issues with that Goro animatronic. I do remember reading about that, but as far as I'm concerned, when you're dealing with something like that, CGI is never going to be 100%. But I'm sorry, they could have done a better job with the technology that's out there. So. No, I'm giving them no passes on Goro.
What do you expect a small indie company like HBO to do? I mean, come on.
HBO would make that movie.
On the subject of CGI, fuck Reptile. All right?
I knew you were going to be unhappy with that one.
I can't hear him anymore.
The entire Mortal Kombat story, Reptile has been dicked on from game to game to game to game. And now he's getting dicked on in the fucking movie because he looks like shit. And on top of that,
like a reptile.
He doesn't die. In the original story, he does not die. He gets dicked on, but he doesn't die.
So we've already gone over that this is not the original story, Darren. You need to stop comparing it to the original story. Because it's not.
I'm sorry. He's supposed to be an MK1. How are you going to kill him if he's going to be an MK1?
I don't know.
Time travel.
Exact. Time travel. That's like it's going to be your answer to everything at this point.
If you ask me a question as to how something can happen, time travel.
Kung Lao. I was kind of right. He looked very campy. I thought they could have done a little bit better. Wasn't as campy as I thought he looked in the trailer. But definitely campy. I guess as far as his moveset is concerned, if we're sticking with the supernatural sci-fi shit, sure. His finisher against Natara, that was awesome.
I would like to relay for those people who are the CGI naysayers, because Alex brought it up. Y'all have no motherfucking idea how much CG is in a movie that you don't even see, because when CG is at its best, it's fucking invisible. Anybody who works in the industry is a goddamn magician and deserves us all sucking their dicks because that shit is amazing.
Sure, and I'm not going to discredit the amount of time that's been put in to make a CGI character. What I am going to
I'm not saying appreciate their labor of love. I'm saying that shit is so goddamn good that you don't even see it 99% of the time. Because the only CG you go, hey, that's CG, is the shit that's the only time you ever notice it, is because when it ain't quite up to snuff.
Or when you just know it's
9.9
going
times
to
out of
be.
10, you don't even see it because the shit looks real.
Well, hang on. So if you're talking about CG like an effect of a surrounding or whatever, all right? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about actually just creating a fucking character out of the fucking blue. And I hate to compare it to this,
It's
but
the hardest thing to do because there's no real life reference.
Exactly. But Marvel and their version of the Hulk kind of set the bar.
One of the best examples ever.
It probably set the bar with that as far as making 100%. Something unrealistic.
So probably has 10 times the amount of money to do it.
So if you're going to make that the benchmark, then Goro, by definition, in my opinion, was not up to speed in terms of how it
I agree. Not as good as the Hulk. Probably had a fraction of the budget, and it's a totally different studio with a totally different budget.
Not as good as the Hulk, because I don't want
to. It doesn't have the pedigree of the MCU.
Well, okay, you're also talking about the newer Hulk, because if you want to talk about the
Hulk was a little rough.
Well, no, I'm not talking about old Hulk. I'm talking about.
I'm not talking about Lou Ferrigno. I'm talking about neon green in the desert. Eric Bana and Ang Lee Hulk.
No, I was thinking Edward Norton.
That one came after, actually.
Yeah, Edward Norton came after, but
and also wasn't terrible, wasn't great either. My point is, it's really fucking hard to create a fantasy character because there's no real life reference, and it takes I can't even count the numbers of hours of R&D that goes into something like that, and the budget and the money and the army of people that it takes to make it happen. It's fucking unreal.
And again, I don't want to discredit the people that worked on Goro or CGI or anything like that. I'm just saying, out of a threshold of what a CGI character could look like, I don't think they met the standard.
Totally. But as a business-minded individual that you are, you will understand that it all comes down to budget.
Absolutely.
There are three things that you have to consider: time, money, and quality. You get to pick two of those.
Right. So going off of that, Reptile, I'm sorry, but Reptile kind of goes through this evolutionary stage where he kind of masks himself or masquerades as more of a humanoid character.
That's a design choice, and I understand you being angry at that. He doesn't look like fucking, he's like literally a reptile, and that's the guy's name, but he's not literally a reptile.
And that doesn't happen until later on.
Yeah.
Down the road. So I was a little pissed at that, but I was more pissed at the fact that they killed him off right away, because that never really does happen.
Yeah, it's like
and he's supposed to be one of Shang Tsung's, time travel.
It was such a throwaway. It's like the way they treated Bane in in Batman and Robin.
Well, I mean,
which was abhorrent. They took a absolutely pivotal character in the Batman universe and made him a dumbass bodyguard for Poison Ivy, which was such a disgrace for such a really cool character.
To Alex's point, there is a possibility that they can retcon the whole death of Reptile scene. I don't know if they actually mentioned Reptile by name in the film, Doc. Correct me if I'm wrong, because you've seen it.
I'm not sure they actually... Did they?
Did they? Okay, then they fucked up. Because if they never mentioned Reptile by name, what they could have done is Reptile belongs to a racist species, and two other characters show up later in the series, both of which are named Chameleon. And Chameleon being, sort of I think the right word is euphemism for the relationship to the actual species being able to camouflage its color. The Chameleon character basically takes all the abilities of the existing ninjas. And whichever color flashes first, that's the abilities you get to use. And then it changes. Chameleon is the same race. Chameleon is the same race as Reptile. So what they could have done is they could have, sort of had a stand-in of that species and not actually Reptile. If they actually did mention it by name, then they fucked up.
What if they just call them all Reptile? Because Chameleon is just a reptile, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yes, but that's a name of a character. Both of them are actually names of characters.
What is the name of their species?
Zaterran.
Oh. Why do you know that?
Because he's a Mortal Kombat nut.
Exactly. Going off of that, Sonya, again, you can't really undersell Sonya. Just get a blonde with big boobs, make her a badass, and you got Sonya Blade.
Word up.
I did not like Kano.
I'm actually going to get to Kano. Sonya, I do appreciate the fact that they threw in the whole old school Easter egg of giving her the rings. I do appreciate that. And Melina's death looks pretty awesome. Melina doesn't die. I have a problem with that. I will get to Melina in a bit. But
it's not
Sonya,
the same.
How long is this list?
Story.
Sonya, I think, can be put in the boat of like the choreography being overdone. Like she does this one flip when Cole's fighting Melina, and she does this flip onto the ground. I'm sorry, that's just fucking overkill. Don't need to do it. It's just little things here and there. Otherwise, didn't have a problem with Sonya. Kano. So you had a problem with Kano, and what is that?
The acting was horrible. The character that whole character seemed like just a waste of space.
They underutilized him. And here's why. In the original backstory, Kano kills Sonya's partner. Sonya wants vengeance, and she goes under the command of Major Jackson Briggs, Jax. So they go on the hunt for Kano, who's part of the Black Dragon clan. Who's in the Black Dragon clan? Cabal, Tremor, Cobra, Kira, Jarek. These are all, maybe other than two of them, they're pretty key characters. Mainly Cabal. Cabal is with the Black Dragon clan, is friends with Kano, but Cabal winds up defecting and working alongside special forces, namely New York Police Department. During the invasion of Outworld, which is Mortal Kombat 3, the Outworld armies beat the shit out of him, burn him, scar him, what have you, you name it. Kano's the one that actually rescues him and gives him the face mask and the what's it called, the
aspirator.
Yes,
respirator.
The respirator. Kano's the one that gives him that technology to help him survive, and now Cabal's in this conundrum. What do? Do I go with my friend or do I go with Earth?
So that was one where they did mention that they know each other, and that was how they were able to do that, like do certain things within the film. But
yes,
it just, like I said, that whole character just wasn't.
They underutilized the shit out of Kano, because Kano and Sonya have just as rich detail as Sub-Zero versus Scorpion. But Kano,
you're saying that they should have added more detail and more storylines to something when you said that they should stick to a single storyline.
No, what I said is they should have compartmentalized them into different films and have one of them be Sonya versus Kano, and you can go into that whole backstory, and you can find out why Sonya has as much rage against Kano, which is not shown in the film, as far as I know. And Kano, unlike Bi-Han, he's just as merciless as Bi-Han, just as ruthless, but he's comical. He's the comedic relief. And his story actually has a cool midway story involving the actor Trevor Goddard, who played Kano in MK1, the first film. Kano was originally supposed to be, I think, a straight Asian character, part of the Black Dragon, whatever, and then they hired Trevor Goddard to portray Kano in the first Mortal Kombat film, but he couldn't do an accent, so he stayed with the Australian accent, and it worked like a charm. So from that point forward, Kano was made this Australian, subcell of the Black Dragon. Yeah.
So how did they change his race to coincide with your story and not completely... Oh, he's gone.
Yep, must be that Activision again.
Hang on.
Yes, that shit was amazing.
Huh?
Wait, where'd Weapon go?
I'm here. Hold on.
Okay. To answer your question, why it is they changed his race? Because he was never actually depicted as an Asian character in the game, which is why they were able to get away with it. Richard DeVizio is the guy that played Kano and Baraka, and then Kano and MK3 in the games. Well, Richard DeVizio is clearly fucking Caucasian. So it's kind of hard to call him an Asian character. But when they first came out with the game, they didn't know where it was going to go. And the height of the popularity brought upon the movie. And when the movie was coming out, I think MK3 was in development or about to be released. And as a result of the success Trevor Goddard had as portraying Kano, they decided to make him more of an Australian descent. And because of the fact that he was never really depicted as an Asian, they were able to get away with it.
Your mic's also muted, Mark.
Hey, what's up, man?
Trying to get my camera to focus, but it is not liking me right
You
now.
need more light. You need more light.
Oh boy.
Need some light on you.
Says the dude that has half his face in darkness.
Yeah, that light was bothering me.
Why
is it focused though?
I thought Kano, for the few lines Kano had, I thought he was good.
Yeah, I liked his vibe, but the one-liners got to be excessive.
I love this vibe. I think that it's one of those things where you were better off compartmentalizing into its own film, just so that way you can actually develop an actual hatred for Kano.
Yeah, like I did really hate him.
Kano and
he didn't really earn his real bad guy thing that he's supposed to have. To me, he seemed like a guy who had a fucking attitude, but he kind of had a good heart.
Well, that's the problem I had with MK21 is
that's the problem I have with the writing around him. He doesn't seem like he's a bad guy.
Kano in the original story was also hired by Shang Tsung to fight on the side of Outworld, but he's kind of in it for his own best interest. So he's in it for the money.
Well, that's what it turns into in this.
Yeah, but my point is like he seems like a Han Solo in that. Like, okay, yeah, he's got an attitude. He's a little bit selfish, but he seems like he might do the right thing in the end until he just doesn't. And you're like, oh, okay, that wasn't earned at all.
Right. And I give them props in terms of character. The problem I have on that is with Cabal in the film. Because Cabal has nothing to do with Outworld at that point. In fact, he has nothing to do with Kano at that point in time. He's just managing the Black Dragon somewhere else at that point.
You mean something else in a story that hasn't stuck to your storylines doesn't stick to your storylines?
Well, okay, so as far as the film is concerned, I loved Kano's portrayal. I thought the actor was good. There just wasn't enough detail to showcase the rivalry between him and Sonya, and which is very personal.
It was personal. I'd be mad if someone promised me $3 million and then they didn't give me $3 million. Dumb movie.
Let's see. Who else? Melina. Once again, I will shit on the fact that you can't have.
You're just a racist. Oh, sorry.
No, CC.
Because I know you're getting there.
I thought CC Stringer. Again, I'm not going to get away from the fact that, as far as aesthetics are concerned, I really didn't even like her look. There should have been more shades of pink, which is kind of the homage to her color. But I otherwise just wasn't a fan of the look.
I thought Shang Tsung was kind of weak.
That's actually what we were saying.
He was just not here or
there.
I like that actor. I do not like the way that character was portrayed.
That character, I'm sorry, but he can only be played as campy.
He was such a lukewarm drink of water in that movie. Like, I'm supposed to be afraid of this guy? All right. Cool.
Honestly, like the whole thing, they have to do other movies. Like they kind of have to, you know? Like, because if this is the only one in this entire thing, and by the way,
this thing just made a bunch of money, so that's probably on the table for them.
Well, hey, there's Mark.
There he is.
There we go. I finally got it. I had to do a quick update.
But
now I get hearing Darren leaves. Cool.
Yeah, but I actually just checked it on Rotten Tomatoes, and it has like an 88% like
What the fuck?
audience rating.
Oh, audience. Yeah, like I said, it made plenty of money.
Here's the thing,
it's going to
is
justify
that
a sequel.
I don't really agree with a lot of the Rotten Tomato like critics, because there's a lot of things where, I'm sorry, but that is a huge difference. That's like almost a 40-point difference between Rotten Tomato and the audience, which means that it was just doing something that the basically it's almost like if you're not doing the checkboxes for the woke community at this point, you're going to get a bad rating from critics and everything around it.
I think that's an extreme statement. I think Rotten Tomato, there's a feel for it. Like if a movie has like a 95, and I'll caveat it with it not being Oscar bait, and there are a few types of movies that are very clearly Oscar bait, which I won't get into. But if a movie is not Oscar bait and it's like 93%, there's a good fucking chance that movie is really good. It's just very well done. It stinks of quality.
The thing is, it's like tomato meter 56% off of 163 reviews.
Mhm.
Audience score is an 88% with over 500 viewers rating.
I honestly agree with the 56% in this case.
Like I said,
100% review?
Yeah.
Say again?
I think the 56 to 65 percentile rating is accurate for this Mortal Kombat. I don't think it's a terrible film. I just don't think it's particularly good. I think a lot of it is mediocre. And I think that the one thing that they should have fucking nailed, which is the fight choreography, they did not nail. I thought it was all right.
Some of the fights, I can agree, like they were a little slow feeling, and I actually think it was.
They just had no pizzazz. I'm like, they would do the little twirl, and then it would culminate into nothing. Like I watched Sonya do this twirl thing, and then it like
That's
was so anticlimactic. I'm like, what was the point of that?
Here's the problem: is that Mortal Kombat fights are not fancy.
They should be. It's fucking Mortal Kombat.
No, that's the thing. Other than finishing moves, there is nothing fancy about Mortal Kombat in its thing. Like, if you want to talk about fancy, Street Fighter will give you something. King of Fighters will give you something.
When I play Mortal Kombat, I got people throwing harpoons and fireballs and uppercutting each other into the fucking sky and blah blah. What about that couldn't be translated into a more dynamic cinematic experience?
Because the harpoon was thrown and people were uppercutted. But I mean, how many?
Yeah, but it was done like silly.
And that's what
shot mediocrely.
I mean, that's
so to kind of support the point. If the closest thing we have to Mortal Kombat in real life is MMA, and
that was the coolest fight in the fucking beginning. That was just an MMA fight.
Right.
It felt good.
And that's why I liked the first fight and the last fight, which is Sub-Zero versus the first fight being Hanzo Hasashi versus Bihan, the last fight being Sub-Zero versus Scorpion. I liked both those fights. Mm-hmm. I would say I liked the first fight better, but yeah, it gets to a point. There's a similar scene in the first Mortal Kombat film in '95 between Liu Kang and Sub-Zero, where it's like, dude, this run Superman punch off the fucking ramp is completely unnecessary. Why the fuck did you do it?
Yeah, why did you take the time to jump off the thing just to go boop?
If anything, Sub-Zero should have thrown the ice ball right then and there. And
pay that shit off if you're gonna do all the fucking Power Ranger wind up. You know what I mean?
But
that fucking pay it off.
The thing is that Superman punch is a move that is your like jump heavy from the game.
But Sub-Zero was across the room. He was nowhere near him.
It doesn't matter.
This is where I will say this is one of those things you change for cinema. Because it does not translate well. It's great when you're playing the game, but when you're watching that shit happen in the cinematic experience, you're like, what the fuck was the point of that? We all feel it when we watch it.
If it hadn't been closer to how they did it in a video game, Darren would be shitting on, well, they weren't using move sets from the video game. I have better move sets on my avatars than they did in this movie.
Not really, because I have no problem if they wanted to keep it realistic and remove some of the supernatural entities, like being able to conjure a fireball. You know, there are some things that you can't get away with, like Shang Tsung being a sorcerer and being able to steal souls. can't really get away from that because that's who Shang Tsung is.
Yeah, that's the essence of the character. You
Correct.
can't depart from the essence of the character.
Correct.
But you can make fights more dynamic so that they look good on camera.
Right. And one of my favorite fights of all time is Scorpion versus Johnny Cage in the first Mortal Kombat film. One of my favorite.
I actually remember that being pretty good, even back then.
The Reptile versus Liu Kang one was really good in that film.
That was the other one I was going to bring up.
Until he did the bicycle kick, which was campy as fuck.
But the one exception I have in the Reptile fight that I also have in the Liu Kang versus Sub-Zero fight at MK21 is the fucking bicycle kick. I hate that fucking move. Seeing it, I love it in the game. Hate seeing it in film because it looks fucking stupid.
At least he didn't do the sounds to go with the bicycle.
What the fuck?
I
changed that.
I like Liu Kang to a degree, but he was just like this super preppy character in the movie.
I had the same feeling when I saw it. I'm like, this motherfucker?
I'm Liu Kang. Come to my dojo. And it's like, and then at times I'm like, this motherfucker looks like Michael Jackson.
He looked so. I'm just gonna say he looks so pretty. I'm like, I need really Liu Kang.
They got BTS to be Liu Kang in
this motherfucker. He looks like a Korean pop star.
So Seth Balbanes is actually correct. The Johnny versus Scorpion fight was added. It was a reshoot. It was added in after the fact.
Oh, really?
Research right there.
So what's hilarious about that is when the first Mortal Kombat film was being filmed was at the same time as MK3 being developed. I believe it was actually released before the movie was. However, in Mortal Kombat 3, Scorpion, several of the ninjas, to include Scorpion and Reptile, were not part of that game, which created a lot of backlash. And so when Ultimate MK3 came out, which would add in Scorpion, a classic Sub-Zero, Mileena, Katana, Ermac, and Reptile, and Noob Saibot, when they added them in, they added additional stages too. And one of them was the Nether Realm, or what would look like as Hell, where Scorpion is from. And ironically enough, they drew inspiration from that reshoot. So that reshoot is supposed to be the NetherRealm.
Mortal Comcast, and there was arguing about video games turned into movies.
So to kind of go back to your flipping and tricks and stuff, like, you know, you do these abnormal moves or like just motions that don't translate very good on film. That's why I feel
here's the thing is, like, there are obviously movies that do this, but, and I'm not a fight choreographer, clearly. In case you guys didn't know, I've seen plenty of flips and blah 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 and Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon shit that looks fucking awesome on camera because they know how to shoot it and they know how to choreograph it. They know how to make it look good. Totally possible. Right. Don't think they hit the mark with this movie.
They didn't.
Look at fucking John Wick, man.
I've seen all the different fight scenes in this film.
John Wick is bad ass from start to finish. And they're doing all kinds of crazy shit. Fucking guns, shooting and the fucking kicks, and he kills a guy with a book and a pencil and all kinds of shit. Like, it looks fucking awesome because they know what they're doing. They just really hit the mark.
I got to take off soon, so one of the other points I was going to bring up is Reiko. Reiko, I don't even know
who that is, but that's just
he was like a Shao Kahn wannabe.
He looked like it. Is that Shao Kahn? Nope, not him. Okay.
No. Background on Reiko is a general. Reiko's a general with Shao Kahn's armies, but he basically wants the throne for himself. And in one of the storylines, which is non-canonical, I think I'm saying that right.
You got it, canonical.
Reiko actually does take the throne. However, in the actual story, he fails at doing so. He's basically just a failure of a general.
He looked like a real big dummy in that one, so I can see why.
He's a big dumbass. But
he giggle and swing his hammer at the same time.
Is that where Shao Kahn gets his hammer? He's just like, no, you don't get to have this anymore. I'm taking it.
Other way. Reiko has a hammer, thinking he's trying to act like Shao Kahn because Shao Kahn has his own hammer. Reiko has nothing to do with the prequel. Has nothing to do with the first 3 games. He doesn't show up until the 4th.
Okay.
And this is after Shao Kahn.
I have zero memory of this character, so
because he was only ever in 2 games, ever. Also, Nathan Jones the former pro wrestler turned fucking Reiko. I'm sorry, not a fan. I was never a fan of Nathan Jones in the professional wrestling business. I'm not a fan as Nathan Jones as Reiko.
He's
How
he's
do
great in
you-
The Protector, and he's great in Mad Max Fury Road.
How do you
That's great.
bring up professional wrestling in everything that we talk about?
Nathan Jones plays Reiko. Nathan Jones was a former professional wrestler.
Everything
Also
we
in
talk
MMA. He didn't
about.
do very well, though, I don't think.
No, he did horrible.
Poor guy.
And then Natara. Again,
He's a giant human being, though.
he's a big motherfucker. Don't get
He's
me
like
wrong. but-
6'11", 300 pounds of solid muscle.
So his height, biology. All right. His
Yeah.
muscle, not so much biology.
Chemistry.
What are you
Chemistry,
implying,
thank you.
sir?
Natara has nothing to do with any. She only has one plot point in all of the games Mortal Kombat has ever fucking released. She has only one plot point in one fucking game, and it's not even that good.
Well, that's
She's
why
supposed
they
to be a
made it. They
beautiful
made it
bird,
a
but Shang
point to
Tsung
call
points
her
out-
out as she landed because they needed to let everybody know that she's a thing. Because nobody
Oh,
knows who
so
the fuck she
beautiful.
is.
Whatever. She had no
He's
point
like,
in purpose in being
Nataro
in
is
the
so
game.
beautiful. I'm like, who the fuck is this bitch?
No,
No.
she had no point in being in the fucking game, and in the game, she didn't look that pretty.
So there was a scene that kind of confused me. So Cole kind of comes up with this idea to do like a human heist. So it's like, and it does like, it almost feels like it does like an Ocean's 11 kind of tune, where it's like, all right, this is what we're gonna do. Raiden, you can teleport anyone anywhere, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And he's
yeah.
like, yeah, I could do that. It's like, cool. Teleport these people here to fight. Teleport these people here to fight. Teleport these motherfuckers over the spikes of the pit. You're done.
Nope. Can't do it
fucking
because
done.
then they would be interfering with the tournament.
No, Mark, you're forgetting the part that they need the movie to happen, so they won't do that.
Although I did
But again-
like the bridge over the pit of spikes being in there.
That was dope. The fight was cool, but I was just like, Raiden at any time could have done this. Like, I just teleport anyone anywhere. It's like,
But that would mean the movie won't.
He
happen.
could have like Azazel'd them.
dude, that plot hole drove me insane. The whole Sub-Zero's been alive forever. That drove me
Yes,
insane.
we
But to
touched
be
on that.
fair, maybe Sub-Zero won a tournament of Mortal Kombat and he was granted immortality because wasn't that a storyline for a little bit? If you won Mortal Kombat, you were immortal.
No, not immortal. You would. I believe. I don't think this is true. But you would not age until the next Mortal Kombat. I don't know if that's actually
How
part of the story.
often do they happen?
Once a
So,
generation.
Years?
once a generation or about once
Oh,
a
sorry.
century. All right, just about.
Those
once
are
a
very
century.
different things. Generation is 20 years.
Okay. The Great Kung,
I believe. I
the
could be
ninth,
corrected
well, the
on that.
ninth tournament happened a while before the modern Mortal Kombat. And there's a very, very slight storyline in there, but I believe it was a lot longer than 20 years. However, it wasn't 15th fucking century. in
Copy
which-
that. I'm
yeah.
going to look up how long is a generation.
It changes. A generation is more of a mindset nowadays than anything else.
So the general is going to be 20 to 30 years.
Okay.
So when they say 3 generations of blah 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 have been police officers, they're talking about granddad, dad, and kid, right?
Okay.
So it's about 20, 30 years.
Okay. I'm totally blanking right now. As far as Bihan is concerned, we were touching on that earlier, with maybe the exception of Raiden, Fujin, Shinnok, and then anyone that's not part of Earthrealm, because any other realm can have their own age range. Like Katana's like 1500 years old or some shit like that, which is probably half the age of people in Outworld. That's its own range. But Bihan is human, therefore he is not immortal. So
But it's very possible that he's just using the ice to slow down his aging.
maybe
He's
for
got
the
a
film,
point.
but
You're going to make that vein on his head pop. You say shit like that.
maybe for the film, but the canonical part of the story is Sub-Zero killing Hanzo is actually in present day. It happens.
How
sometime
present are we
before-
talking?
15th century.
You're an idiot.
Like, if you're talking modern human, it's been 50,000 years, but
I mean,
Depends
it
on
was modern enough they made those weird little arms for Jax.
It depends.
Go T-Rex style with it.
It depends on it depends on, I would say, if you want to talk game release or if you want to talk movie release. Whichever one you're referring to.
The version you care about.
I don't think he cares about any version anymore.
The game release is the canonical
game release. All right, we'll go with that.
The canon he's going with. So how modern are we talking?
90s.
Okay, so the 90s then, right?
Mid 90s. Mid 90s.
Okay. That's all I want to know. I want to note that the thing that bugged me was the Arcana. What the fuck was that called again, Mark?
Arcana. You're right.
Arcana. Yeah. How the fuck does your Arcana include building metal arms? That doesn't seem natural at all.
The Arcana bullshit already pissed me off. No more than the fucking like dragon birthmark bullshit. You kill someone, you take the birthmark. No,
I guess you could argue that a laser eye isn't Arcana, very natural either. But
the laser
opportunity, Arcana could have made it the metal eye.
The verisimilitude just wasn't there for me.
All right, I gotta take off.
All right,
as you can hear.
Yep.
See ya.
All right. Later.
Is Mista going over to Darren's house, and that's why the dogs are barking? What's up?
Is who?
Mista?
By the way, do you guys know what verisimilitude is before Darren leaves?
Darren's
gone. Do you know what that is?
No.
That is when you have a piece of fiction and you set rules for said fiction, you abide by those rules. So when I say it doesn't match its own verisimilitude, it means that they're not playing by their own set of rules. So it's okay if you got magic and fucking dragons and laser eyes and shit like that. I just don't think that they adhere to their own rule set very well. Like I don't know. For example, if you break the verisimilitude in, let's say, like a Superman story, and you just give him a random power. I know Superman already has a lot of powers, but do you all remember in Superman 2 when he took his shield and threw it into a piece of cellophane and captured one of Zod's goons? That, my friends, is how you break verisimilitude, because that is not fucking a Superman power. It is bullshit and random and ridiculous.
It kind of reminds me of the whole Death and Return of Superman, where he returned and then he was like that blue energy, red energy Superman.
Yeah, I remember that too.
That whole thing, and then that was like that lasted like 5 issues. And they're like, no, this is dumb.
Yeah, because everybody's like, what the fuck is this bullshit? Give me that Superman back.
Which kind of maybe defends the point of why so many people were upset with Batman murdering a bunch of thugs in the.
Yeah, that's a good example too. Is it doesn't follow the rules that you have set. And even if like Batman kills a guy once, that to me doesn't break it, because I feel like that would happen if I'm being honest. But the fact that he's just flat out open murking fools at will, that to me breaks the character. That destroys the essence of the character. Because if he was so quick to do that, God, I wish he would have killed the Joker like eons ago. We would have avoided all this mess.
He wants to save him.
Jared Leto Joker. He'd have been done.
It's all right.
Yeah, like Seth is saying, there's no way Batman didn't accidentally off a fool. Yeah, like it probably would happen on occasion, and he probably would feel regret about it. But he's not going to be drilling fools with his minigun as he flies over in his bat cave, or bat plane rather. Be hard to fly a bat cave, I think. It's tough.
I don't know, man. I mean,
it's Batman.
Yeah, it's
freaking Manhattan Project, his own mansion. It's good to
It's true. It's Batman, so he can do anything.
I think that'd be a lot of fun. But with all of that being said,
you do look exhausted, man.
Dude, I am so tired. so
I'm about to go paint for 3 hours. Y'all want to join me?
I get ready
this shit on over.
I gotta get some sleep for work in the morning.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay.
But yeah, same here. Actually, I do have to work in the morning. But no, I worked last night from 11 p.m. until about 9 a.m. today.
See, when you work, you go balls deep, man. It's crazy.
But yeah, are you live right now, Weapon?
No, I will be here in a minute. Should I go live right now?
Yeah, do it up.
Okay, give me 1 second. I will set that shit up. 2 minutes.
Well, I gotta say, Doc, thank you so much for having me on. Finally, like this worked so perfectly. Finally get to be on.
Thanks for the invite. I didn't expect that. I got a text from Darren. He's like, "Come join so I can beat you up about Mortal Kombat." And I'm like, "Okay."
He didn't even watch the movie.
The sad part, yeah. Let's give a review on a movie we never watched. Darren, I love you, but dude, like, you gotta like when it comes to something like this,
Just grit your teeth through it, man. It ain't that. It ain't,
Like
shit,
I
first
said,
off, it's
and
free to watch. It's free to watch.
if you got access to the
I'll give you my
HBO Max.
username and password, bro. It's free to watch.
but like I said, so I did the work, and then I came home and I watched the movie so that I would be ready for the 4:00 podcast. And then I get a text of, "Yeah, I'm gonna be late." I'm like, "Motherfucker!
Cool.
I could have been
Like,
asleep."
I was with Seth and Weapons last night, and then it hit midnight. And I'm like, "Oh, sorry guys, I gotta go watch Mortal Kombat."
Yeah.
As soon as midnight hit, I'm watching it.
That did happen. Yeah, it's true. That did happen. Give me 1 second. I'm almost ready to go.
It's just a dumb, stupid, fun movie. It was entertaining. It was dumb.
Like I said,
Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
It is probably the best, or at least a top 3 of the video game movies out there, and it is probably number
right,
1.
There's not a lot of great ones,
and it's probably number
terrible.
1 for like the actual like stand-up fighting games, as far as movies
They
go.
make that Primal Rage one.
They just did.
Not Kong vs. Zilla, man. That doesn't count.
Talking about Rampage, you got to remember that. That shit's a video game movie too.
I'm just waiting for them to just
So
destroy.
was Prince of Persia by Disney with Jake
Oh
Gyllenhaal.
man, I forgot they did that one.
See,
Holy
and that
'Cause that
one,
was like the highest grossing video game movie for the longest time.
and that one's not even a bad movie. It's just
It had an ostrich race. I was sold.
I'm still waiting for oh, what the fuck is it called?
At least they got a war.
No. Although I'm really interested in The Last of Us.
That's gonna be great.
So here's the thing that works. The reason a lot of times these video games don't translate very well to movie is first there's just a lot of exaggerated motions. Like I have trouble visualizing a Metal Gear Solid movie because of just how out there it is. That like you try to translate that into film, it's just not gonna work well. Like if you play the GameCube version of the first one, you know, there's like a 5-minute scene of a ninja twirling a sword for no reason. And it's like that doesn't translate very well into a movie. Your eyes are just like, why are you doing this? Like, why are you running up on a wall to Superman punch a guy? Why are you twirling a sword for 5 minutes? So a lot of these stories are so long because people spend 40, 60 hours playing these games. You can't condense that into a 2-hour movie.
It's definitely tough.
The Witcher did it right. Like, make it a series.
I don't know, man. Actually, I think it would have been great if Mortal Kombat was, like, the movie was just like the game was, where it was literally just, all right, you two are up next. No backstory. It should just all be assumed that people understand why it's going on, just like all of the video games are. And you just start pitting people one against the other, and that's the end of it.
The rub of that will be that they need to attract people who don't know the story to make the money to justify the cost of the movie.
The cost would be so low at that point because you would literally just be choreographing fight scenes, and that'd be the end of it. But the thing is it
Mortal
would
Kombat bum fights right there.
Yeah, that's it.
Just throw them at each other. I mean, come on, it works.
It does.
We're buying bum fights left and right, and that's all it was a bunch of bums fighting. There was no story.
Okay.
It would work.
I am currently live with the janky start screen.
All right, let me get on mine so I can give you the host as well here.
All right.
All right, gentlemen, again, thank you so much for having me on. This was excellent. This was a great experience.
Yep, and we'll end up doing it again sometime, but honestly, I just feel bad that I wasn't able to give it my all like I normally am, because
yeah, it was fine, dude. You're good.
Fucking tired.
Good.
Yeah, you're fantastic as always.
But
I know you're a little tired, but dude, you're totally good.
Let's go over and raid Mr. Creation. Oh, and you're just on the start screen.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to give a little bit of a buffer so we could sort of fade in to this, because I'm sure my voice is showing up on the stream now too, but you know, we'll get there.
I haven't got my haircut for this yet. I've got like a line on it.
Raid! You're gonna watch me paint Scorpion now, huh?
It's kind
Yeah.
of good. Although in your painting, he has a scar on his face, and
Yeah,
in the
because
movie,
it's
I don't
not
recall him
actually
having a
Scorpion.
scar.
It's just the actor that I really like.
Weapon. Just so you know, your thing can only hear you. They can't hear us. You're talking to yourself.
Oh, right. Yeah, you're right.
So it
'cause I
reminds you of your
didn't
mic on, but no desktop audio. Got it.
Hold on.
But with that
Yep.
being said, have a good stream. I am going to
We'll
go
be
to sleep.
starting here in a minute, folks. Just
Don't you
fading out on
worry.
a podcast.
Diablo's coming back, guys. You'll be watching it again on Monday, Tuesday soon.
That's it.